In terms of women, children, and the aged, a CPP government would be committed to implementing the important 2016 Affirmative Action Gender Equality Bill currently before Parliament, since the Act is to ensure the achievement of gender equality in political, social, economic, and educational spheres in society. Furthermore, the Ghanaian child is vulnerable due to the high infant mortality and child trafficking. The CPP will honor all laws, including the Child Cannot Wait program, designed to improve their welfare. And we are also committed to implementing the spirit and letter of the 1992 Constitution concerning the aged under Article 37(2)(b), especially in respect of old women being accused of witchcraft. We shall protect the dignity and well-being and happiness of the aged. Now, finally, I come, as I close, to the issue of disability. Obviously, I have a personal interest in ensuring that the disabled are given the best treatment they could ever possibly have imagined. But before that, looking at the examples I gave earlier, we are all disabled in so many ways. Because if you can't access proper health care, or you can't find a job, or you can't educate yourself, or you don't have a proper nutritious meal a day, then you are disabled by your circumstances. How much more somebody with an additional disability? Let's reorient our whole mindset on disability. We will make sure the Disability Act, the UN Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities, will be fully implemented with the speed of light. We shall go further to ensure their dignity is protected and enhanced, and that education and health and transportation are free, and that public and private employers be legislated to employ not less than 5% of their workforce as persons with disabilities. We will leave no stone unturned. Unfortunately, the Flagstaff House, the highest office of the land, in the construction of that mighty building, has no ramp. Those who constructed it never thought for a second that one day the President of Ghana would be in a wheelchair. We are in the holy month of Ramadan, and for the remaining 10 days, I have been breaking my fast, except for today, with my CPP Director of Communications and my brother, Kadri Abdul Rauf. And for those doubting Thomases, who for a moment do not believe that it is going to happen, let me tell them that rest assured, the ways of man are not the ways of God. Insha'Allah bi-izni Allah. Thank you very much.
Ivor Greenstreet, the flag bearer of the CPP, delivering a summary of his manifesto, obviously, to an audience here at the Alisa Hotel at the second of the IEA Evening Encounters. This program is live on radio and television. We're live on 97.3 City FM and 99.7 Joy FM. We're also live on Joy News Television. And having heard from the flag bearer, we would proceed to the second part of the program, which involves inviting selected persons from various sectors of society, particularly civil society, to engage Mr. Greenstreet in a Q&A. But being the moderator, I will take the liberty to ask you the first question so that the rest will take a cue. Mr. Greenstreet, thank you for your presentation. A recent media investigation revealed that the president had been given a gift of a Ford Expedition vehicle by a Burkinabe contractor, Jibril Kanazoe. You are quoted in the media to have said, and permit me to quote, "I do not feel this is a breach of protocol or conflict of interest," unquote. And you also said at some point in that interview that, quote, "This is properly documented generosity." Question: is this your true position on this issue based on what we all know? Number two, what is your definition of bribery and conflict of interest? Thank you.
Bernard, Hajia has something for you that I wrote before I came here. I'd like you to open that envelope and read it.
Okay. We will read that as the program proceeds.
It is in response to your question. I'd like you to read it now.
No, the format is that you answer the questions we ask.
Pass it to me.
So you may want to read it to me.
This is what I wrote at home, entitled Bernard Avler. Before I came, let me read it to you. Listen very well. Hey, Bernard, I bet you that you will ask me about corruption in my recent remarks on the Ford Explorer. Bad boy. And at the end of it, I put, that's what you call political antennae. Take it for you.
Thank you. So,
okay.
If you don't succeed in politics, you can enter prophetic ministry.
So,
you're a good prophet. So please answer the question.
It's not about prophecy. It's about how I'm going to answer your question. There are two answers. As soon as I had that call that day from Joy FM, and knowing the content of that call, two things happened. First thing that went up is my political antennae. Second thing that went up as a lawyer is my legal antennae. And today, before coming here, having written this, you should know that my political antenna is high to know what you are even going to come and ask. That is what you call political antennae. And so what did my political antennae tell me that day? It told me that there's a group of people who are agitating, and by getting that call, they want me to jump on their bandwagon to pursue a particular agenda and cause they have. I am not an agitator for other people's political intentions. And we constantly hear the refrain on radio. People are indicted, people are accused, people are tried on radio and found guilty before they've even had a chance to respond. We've all been witnesses to when a former head of state called a sitting head of state, who is now a former head of state himself, Atayi, armed robber, criminal. And here I am, wanting to occupy that very office. I refuse to be part of any group of people who seek to denigrate the individual who might occupy them. I went to Kumasi and said to the NDC, corruption from top to bottom, left to right, inside out. But I will never turn around and point at the president and tell him to his face that you are corrupt unless I have evidence. So that is why I answered the question that way. Number one, to prevent those who think I'll be an agitator on their behalf. But number two, because I believe there has to be proper evidence, proper investigations, and a matter properly looked into before we all start jumping up and down trying to accuse people of specific things. And the CPP has made it clear that we are entirely opposed to the entirely in favor of the National Action Corruption Plan. We are totally in favor of its implementation. And it's a huge document which has so much detail. And in terms of bribery and corruption, dealing with this specific incident, I would not want to even go into the specificities of it because we're dealing with an organization called the EU. We don't actually know when things took place, and certain bodies have been set up to look into the matter. But in terms of my own party and some individuals coming up with some differing views. I can tell you that I was General Secretary for 8 years, and therefore I respect the office of General Secretary in the same way I respect the office of the Presidency. And having occupied that office of the General Secretary, any various reports that may have come out which appear to be different from myself and the General Secretary, I will make sure I speak to him and we solve any intra-party communication issues that may have cropped up. But with regard to the youth organizer, who may have also been making some comments, well, I believe he is doing those in his individual capacity, because the party itself has not come out with its specific position. However, people taking their individual positions sometimes occurs in politics. My good brother, Kabila, also took an individual position on the STX matter and was later had some problems with the party. Taking individual stances, we all engage in it from time to time. Even myself, like Kwabna Japan, I was suspended by my own party for 1 year, for 1 solid year. So rest assured, it is these experiences and these occasions that sharpen your political antennae. But one thing I can tell you is that we in the Convention People's Party are totally opposed to corruption at all levels, whether petty corruption or corruption at the top. And we will try and do all we can to make sure it does not occur. But you have to understand that we're in a country where about 60 or 70% of us are Christians, and about 20 or 30, I don't know exact figures, are also Muslims. Merely deciding to adhere to the precepts in the Bible and in the Quran would mean that we would have no need for all of these laws on corruption that all of us seek not to obey. So, Bernard.
Is that your final answer?
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know whether you will let it be final.
Thank you for the answer. Just to point out that this is not part of any political conspiracy. People who want to be president must state clear positions on matters that concern us. Corruption costs us over $3 billion in a year. And to ask you to clarify a position you made, I believe is a legitimate question. And for your working division of corruption, I believe the listeners and viewers want to know. So if that is your answer, thank you very much. We will continue by asking some people to pose questions. We're very privileged to have the executive director of a CSO involved in energy, Mr. Ishmael Ejekum Hene. He will ask the first question. Mr. Ejekum Hene.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Greenstreet, for such an excellent presentation. I must say you got me thinking, and maybe you never know. It was an excellent delivery. But as an energy person, I have some concerns about what is turning out to be your flagship energy projects that you intend using to take Ghana out of the crisis in which we find ourselves. And I hope there will be an opportunity for the party, your party, to present the details for us to interrogate. So I will leave it there, especially looking at the technology that you're grounding the policy on. But given that that intervention is unlikely going to happen in your first year of your presidency if you should become a president, because obviously it's going to take time for you to do that. How are you going to ensure, and given the fact that thermal energy is going to dominate the energy mix for the next 4 years, potentially during your presidency, and given that you've told us you are versing towards high tariffs, how are you going to ensure that electricity tariffs are affordable yet cost reflective, knowing that part of about 90% of the problem that the sector faces now is as a result of subsidies over the year?
Thank you very much, Ishmael.
Ishmael, thank you. Can you hear?
Yes.
Ishmael, thank you very much for the question. And you've raised some very important issues, which I'll try and address. Efficient electricity generation is key not only in terms of ensuring the consumer gets a good service, but in terms of the price that is paid. And so the first thing we would do, bearing in mind, as you have rightly said, the proposals we have stated are not short-term, but medium to long-term, that in the short term, we will address dealing with the distribution of electricity issue. I believe about 23% of losses take place whilst electricity is being distributed. Now, I believe if we're able to solve that area of the 23%, and we're able to aggregate all of that together, it should lead to a reduction in taxes, in tariffs. However, I think we also have to look at the effect that these high tariffs are having on different sectors of people, because what effect it is having on industry is different to an effect that it might be having on a household. And I think in view of the fact that we've been talking about job creation and the economy, we have to do as much as we can to try and also reduce the burden on industry and business for them to be able to lower their costs, produce more, employ more people, pay more taxes to government. So I think what we would consider is a distribution policy whereby electricity that is generated by those areas where it is cheaper, we could direct that to industry, and perhaps the expensive ones that you're talking about elsewhere. So we could direct energy from Akosombo or from Pong or from Bui to industry, whilst we look at how the other areas of energy can be generated to a different sector. And to also perhaps even consider further assisting business, even though that would have some further implications on the tariffs that the